Is this a trap or can we trust this rally? That's a pretty simple question. Let's step back. After spending 2 days below the 50 DMA, just like the last two times, in order for us to signal a potential trend change, we have to get back above the 50 DMA. Is that what's going to happen here? Or can we trust this rally? Let's read this headline. Stocks claw back losses. Yes, we're losing momentum. Again, one more time. After we close 2 days below an average, it generally means that we're losing momentum. That momentum can come right back. And after closing 2 days back above, we go back up higher. But this week is a little bit different because, frankly, there's a lot at stake. If we now look forward here, what we basically see is that Oracle is also giving us a little bit of lift into after hours, which means that, hey, if we're going to get back above that 50 DMA, it could happen tomorrow, it could happen on Wednesday, or it could not happen. But momentum is building up for the bulls here. Palantir inclusion is also lifting it at higher by 14%. And MSOS is even moving. Oh my goodness. Stonks appear pretty happy when we look at the heat map here. And this is really important to note because, again, we're clawing back losses. So we want to see the losers of before catch up. But we also want to see other things advance. Like what? Like Bitcoin. Here's the interesting part. We're still in fear. So this rally is real. I would like to see us back into neutral and back above the 50 DMA. In 90 seconds, that's pretty much it. Right now, we're still going down, so we got to go back up before we go higher. All right, now let's read this headline that got updated. Ironically, it's the exact same one we had here. It's just been retitled as the market closed green. Stocks rise as buyers scoop up bargains after out. Okay, there you go. Market's attention now turns to inflation data and the debate, which is going to be tomorrow night. So the inflation number should not be new to viewers. We know we're looking for 2.6, which is going to come out at 8:30 a.m. on Wednesday. That'll be on the 11th. And then we have a 10-year auction shortly after that. This will really matter because right now, the Fed must decide if a quarter point is enough for workers. What does that mean? Who cares, right? It means they're going to be cutting. It's a matter of how much. We talked about that on the weekend, and I'll give you a more in-depth review this weekend coming up. Schumer warns government shutdown. Look at those big, mean eyes. What are they saying? Potential government shutdown on September 30th. Okay, there's a deadline. Well, they almost always shut down. It's tit for tat, and with elections coming up, it'll be interesting. This week, people finally think we're going to go down, so maybe we can actually go back up. That'll be interesting. 59% of people is a pretty high reading. If we go back in time, usually when we're at 60 or higher, it's almost dead, almost always dead wrong. Retail's usually wrong. So what's the shift? What are we going to shift to for focus for the rest of the week? Well, we got through the Apple event tomorrow night. We're going to get the presidential debate. That'll be tomorrow after the close. And then also tomorrow after close before Wednesday open, we're going to get CPI. Then we got the 10-year auction, ECB decision, and then we got the 30-year auction on Thursday. So there's still quite a few things for us to get through. This is the true first full week of trading ever since Labor Day, and everyone's back. So this is really important because going into next week, we're going to have ES rollover, and then the FOMC decides. So is Jerome Powell going to say, all right, time to cut by 25 or by 50? I don't think that's really the question people should be asking. But just before we go further and talk about other things in the show, I'm going to ask you for a huge favor. If you could please consider smashing that thumbs up or subscribing to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. So Apple had their event today. Let's read these headlines here because I typed in Apple supercycle, and what do we hear? Apple Intelligence isn't going to spawn a supercycle. Bloomberg's Gurman bets against an Apple supercycle. Apple Intelligence, that's the same one. Apple Intelligence details will help the market decide on where we're going to go. Yeah, I would agree. What did we hear today? Well, we didn't hear anything bad, but we didn't really hear anything new. And what I also heard was that we're going to be getting some announcements later in the year. Notably, we're going to get software releases for Apple Intelligence. I think it was in October and then in December. And then really by mid next year. That's a long time from now. We'll see if this market's going to be patient. So as we're looking here to Apple as what people were calling the dark horse over here for AI, well, it's risen by 30%. Let's look and see what happened on a closing basis today because the stock went down and then it went back up, right? Sold off hard into the event and then slung right back up higher. So I think what'll be really interesting here is going to be the fallout. And why the reason why I say that is because the stock is now also below its 50 DMA. You can see here, right? Gets too far from the 50, push lower. Let's zoom in a little bit closer because this is actually pretty important here. So if we have a look, every time we deviate too far from the blue line, that's the short-term price, what happens, right? We get a big old wick. So big old wick on the top, big old wick on the bottom, big old wick on the top. Is that pattern going to continue here? If it does, Remember, we're below the short-term price. What does that mean? In the short term, we're not going up because we're below it. And right now we have a really big resistance zone, which is going to be here. Sorry, a pivot. That's why it's pink. And that's going to be our previous top here because a lot of other charts, including SMH, look like this before they turn into what? Head and shoulders, knees and toes. So if we're going to go back down to like roughly 198 or the previous top, this would be the week. As of right now, we have a failed breakdown, though. So a failed breakdown is a bottoming pattern. But in order to go higher, we need to see that expansion signal or close over the previous candle high. So simply put, for Apple, hey, we're off to a good start. We've now established support. Let's not revisit it and let's go higher. Notably, as the market's now going to be focused on really what's going to be happening here into CPI and really what the Fed's going to do, because as I briefly alluded to on the weekend, the market is falling behind. Let's look at two more quick things, and then otherwise, I think that's going to be it for today. Looking here to the dollar, dollar's actually up with the S&P. Okay. And then the VIX is down by 13%. So if you want to watch more, I encourage you to watch the video on the left, which is a summary from the weekend. Thanks so much. If not, I'll see you at 9:15.